I'm CK, and tonight we have one that's kind of interesting and exciting for me a little bit. This is t01 VCO, the first in-house developed eurorack module from Thonk. So this is from Thonk Synth. This is a Thonk designed and developed oscillator. So we'll see what it looks like, see what they have done differently, see how interesting it sounds, and more importantly for me, see how interesting it is to assemble. So let's see what Thonk's first effort in their own in-house built eurorack module is. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And here's the bag. Thonk Synth T01, a VCO for DIY kit, of course, I picked up from thonk.co.uk, and it's got an orange label instead of their white or yellow labels. I guess that's to differentiate themselves. And I'm wearing it with my orange sweatpants. I did not plan that. That was just serendipity. And there's a build document that we'll pull up in a little bit. But first, let's see what's in the bag. Here we have the win 20 pounds off your next order. Maybe. I'm not going to do that because they get enough feedback from me. They don't need more. Here we've got Thonk Synth knobs and a trimmer. I'm going to bust open the knob bag because I want to see if these are good knobs or kind of so-so knobs. Oh, they're very so-so knobs. It's just one little plastic knob with an index insert. Nothing special about that at all. No flat sides, no lock screws, but that's okay. Let's see what we got in here. There's a mechanical bag. I'm looking for the circuit board. Oh, here it is. Panel and 2 PCBs. See what we've got in this. There's definitely not going to be much to do on this. If you look at the circuit board, it's almost all surface mount already installed. I want to see if they give any acknowledgement. There's 2 trimmers, and this says 1 trimmer for the 502. I don't know if there's one for 503 or not. Maybe. I'll find it. Do they... Oh, there's a bunch of people. Oh, they've got a QC Pass sticker on the back. That's cute. I don't think I've ever seen that. This was developed in September of 2024. And, well, this is really nice. They've got a couple of test points here, and they actually are labeling what they're for. This test point should give you a -5 volts. This test point should give you plus 2.5 volts, so that's nice. I really love it when they mark the test points. But we're just going to do connectors and the trimmers on that board. And on this board has our regular jacks and knobs. Nothing more on there. And again, there's a number of acknowledgements on the bottom. RoostWitten.com, Knox Ohm Pack, Dan Parks, Sound Semiconductor, and Thomas Henry. So they had some other people's input on their first oscillator. Let me see. I'm going to see this. I probably can. I want to say, oh, we could certainly read the chip values on this. The main chip, SS121310528C. I bet that's the oscillator main chip there, but we'll see. Then we've got our typical frequency fine-tuning. Let me get the other board so we can see what goes in there. So we've got fine-tuning as a pot right here. a switch here for plus or minus. I'm not sure whether that's phase or not. Frequency has another pot. There's an LED for the LFO that must be built in here. There's a diode here also. I'm not sure what that's going to show us. Maybe it's just whether the oscillator is firing off or not. Diode here to show the LFO rate. Then volts per octave, pulse width modification, frequency modulation, and syncing. So this frequency might go to the LFO. It's not. So there's not two. Some oscillators have a coarse tune frequency and a fine tune. It looks like this just has a fine. This is probably self-tuning, because they don't give us a trimmer for tune. They give us a trimmer for volts per octave and the sine symmetry, I believe is what that is. And then we pull out a square wave, a saw wave, a triangle wave, and a sine wave. So you can get all four waveforms out probably simultaneously. I'm going to make an assumption about that because there's no reason not to. So that looks all good, even though not a lot of soldering going on. Got a power cord. We've got, there's the other trimmer. And there's some hardware to mount it on your rack. Here are the pin headers already pre-cut for you. Then we've got a button, Thonk button. It's their new logo. Let me zoom in a little bit on that. New logo for, I'm going to call it Thonk Labs, Thonk Synth. Pull back out. I'll put that somewhere with other buttons. And that's it. Here's all the mechanical stuff, all the pots and knobs and jacks and so on. Let me dump that into a different parts bin. Take a look at it, see if anything interesting is in here. That's a squat little 10K pot, standard tall pot. Then we've got some LEDs, shouldered LEDs. Let me get my LED buddy out. I buried it under some hats under my workbench. See how these look. Try the white one first. See if it is white. No, it's kind of orangey. Let's see if it's bicolor by reversing the leads. It's white in reverse. Okay. Now we'll look at the orange one. Maybe this one will be blue. No, just kidding. That is orange itself. I don't know if this is reversed. It does not reverse. Okay. So there we go. Those are the diodes. Let me turn the power off on this so the battery doesn't run down. And some jacks. Oh no, they didn't take the panel nuts off for me. I want my money back. I have to work. But that's it. I'm not going to... here are the switches. There's one switch, push button switch, and one paddle switch, and one switch cap for this one. And that's it. Going to be pretty quick to put it all together. But more importantly, we'll see how it sounds, see what Thonk has done to create their own unique oscillator. So I'll get the soldering iron heated up and we'll put this thing together pretty quick. So I brought the build guide up, and yeah, this chip is actually an SSI 2131. That's the sound chip from Sound. What? I'm sorry, I forgot the name already. It's the sound chip from Sound Semiconductor. So that's what's going to be making most of the oscillations and whatever else we're doing, like pulse width modification and so on and so forth. The build guide is, as you would expect, based on what we've seen here. Where is the silly button? It's pretty minimal, because there's not a lot of building going on in this, but enough to be at least a little interesting. And they would like us to start with the power connector, which is somewhere, oh here it is, it's inside the pin headers. And it is a unshielded connector, not keyed. You know, it's interesting. I'm looking at the parts that Thonk is including in things like a unshielded connector and some of the not great knobs. And I'm saying, but guys, you sell parts. Why don't you use the good parts? Maybe it's because they wanted to get the price point really down low. In fact, I forget what I paid for this. Let me see what the price point is as of, what the heck day is it? It's October 29th, 2024. And yeah, this comes in at 64 pounds, which is pretty inexpensive. So I soldered one pin. Now I'm going to look to make sure it's all flat, and it is all flat. It flattened out very well, so I'll go ahead and solder the rest of them. There, the power connector is on, and fortunately there's a big indicator for the red stripe on the power cord. I've been noticing some builds I've done recently have very small or stripes that get covered up by the connector itself, which is kind of silly, but now we're going to put RB1 on, the 5K trimmer. And it gets soldered on this side of the board. And I'll go ahead and put the 50K trimmer at RB2 also. Man, I gotta get my scissors out. I'm having no fun. And of course we want to make sure that the screws go on the outside. There's an outline on the board for where the screw, adjusting screw should be, but you should pretty much kind of know that you want it facing outwards so you can actually work with it. And I'm going to do the middle pins on these first. I'm going to make sure they're flat. They are not flat. This one's actually a couple of millimeters up. So I'll just press on it, reheat that leg, clicks into place. And I'll just do this one just to be sure, even though I'm pretty sure it's all the way down. Now the other legs. Now we're going to put the pin headers on, and they're going to do it the way a lot of people recommend. I do it sometimes this way and sometimes I don't. But, uh-oh, coyotes are starting to howl. Put all the pin headers together. And we'll set the female ones in first, even though that really doesn't matter. It's just whatever your particular preference is. In fact, you can mix them if you want. Just being consistent can always be easier to remember where you are and things like that. Now we'll set this on top. We're going to take this. Actually, we may not have to take this back apart. Oh yeah, of course we do, because we got to solder all the parts on the pots and knobs board. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one pin on each of these also. And I'm actually going to, let me flip my solder pad over so I can drop that down into one of the little holes. I'm going to eyeball all these, make sure they're all flat. This one is not on this end, on the male pin header side, so we'll reheat that, settle it down, all good. This one is not either. Okay, now we can get all the rest of the pins done. And that's now the pin headers. And we'll take that back apart so we can get all the controls put in place. And the green pot goes up at the top. Toggle switch goes here. Ooh, nice and tight. Oh, well, no, it's not nice and tight. Thought it was, but I misled myself. The little blue pot goes here. And, yeah, we're not going to solder yet. And then we're going to take the switch, and we're going to put the button cap on it. Now it's got to go a particular way. And there's a line on it, which aligns with the line right there. Now we'll put the two LEDs in. So the orange one goes in 102, and there's a very clear plus sign showing you where the long lead goes, and the bicolor here. And we'll just kind of set that down. They'll be sticking up for a little bit. That's okay. Okay, they're being real specific about some stuff here. We want to make sure that we actually use the washers here. I was a little interested in that because, oh God, these bags I'm not doing well, even with paper bags. They want to make sure we use all three washers here, because I noticed that this pot was shorter than some of the other pots we've used over the years. So we want to put these on more as spacers than as washers. And we'll put all three of them on, and then we've got one washer on there. I don't have a nut for that. Where is my... Oh, there it is. I was looking for the panel nut that goes with it, with the switch, and that's this black anodized one. This silver one goes on here to provide the right spacing for the board. Now We'll set the jacks all in their positions. Now we'll put the panel down on it, making sure that washer's down. Make sure everything looks even. It looks pretty good. Yeah, we really did need all three of those washers to shore that up, to shim that up to the right size. Huh, interesting. I'm going to grab my little clamp. I'm reading ahead in the instructions, and the picture is not exactly, I guess it is. Oh well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this panel nut, put it on here. Now with those three washers, it doesn't, you don't get a lot of threads here. In fact, I feel like taking one of the washers out. God, that's an odd size. It's probably English metric. I mean imperial and not metric, which is unusual. And I've got that nut on there, so I'm going to solder one support leg. I'll solder both support legs. And that means I can take, actually I'm going to do one of these jacks down here, making sure it's really flat to the circuit board. Now I'll take a panel nut. Get that one down. Oh, there's where my screwdriver went. I was looking for, if you looked at my last video, I was looking for this and I couldn't find it. Huh. I put a new organizer on my workbench, so I'm not used to the organization I just made. Now I've taken the clamp off because the nut here and the nut here will hold everything firmly together while I solder all these connections, except for the LEDs. We'll talk about them in a little after I do the other bits. Now I left some things unsoldered, like the tactile switch, because it wasn't flat. So what I'm going to do again, I take a little piece of foam. This is foam that ICs came on in a previous kit. And I just keep it so I can use it to push stuff up flat against the circuit board. And again, I'm going to do one leg, let it cool. Make sure we're all flat and even, and make sure it clicks well. Because I think that might be I don't know if that's a tap tempo or a trigger. It doesn't quite. Oh no, it's an in-out is what it is. Look at that, the button cap has a big gap under it before it mates to the panel, so it doesn't go quite perfectly. But I'll go ahead and solder the rest of the pins. Now we'll do the LEDs, and these are again shoulder-based LEDs with shoulders on them, and when we put them through the hole, they protrude. Now, the build instructions, oh man, that's not good. These washers are in the way of this LED going through the hole it's supposed to go through. Just by a little bit, just by a fraction of a millimeter, but it's enough to keep that from going through. Let me see what I can do here. I don't know if I've got any free play in it, and I have to find something narrow enough diameter to get in there. That's not going to do it. And I don't want to damage the LED while I'm in there. Can I move these a little bit sideways? I don't think so. Oh no, that went sideways, and I was able to shove the washer stack sideways enough to get the LED through. Now you can, it's kind of your choice if you want these to protrude or not. The build guide says we want them flush with the surface of the panel, so we'll do that, because I've got no reason not to. Take a little painter's tape, masking tape, whatever you want to call it. Put it there, and put it there. Now we can push the LEDs up against the masking tape, because that will make sure that they are flat against the, or flush with the panel surface. And those are on, and I'm going to turn the cameras off and on to recycle their timers, because I do want to talk about a couple of other things that are coming up here. So I'm going to take the tape off, and as you can see, the LEDs are flush with the front panel, which is what the build guide recommends. Now I'm going to trim the LED leads. And then there are two boxes printed on the board saying clip and clip, and that's because that's an unfortunate positioning where the trimmers are right on top of those. So if we were to bring this all the way down, well, it doesn't really interfere, but it could. It interferes a little bit. So they would like us to trim it all the way, flush cut them as much as you can. Get your flush cutters really down on the circuit board. And now we're going to put the knob on the pot. It's got a flat spot, so that's good. Matching the flat spot on the handle of the knob. And now we'll put the little indicator cap on it, kind of that way. Goes smoothly, that goes smoothly. Switch works. Oh, let me put that. I'll do that in a second. Again, this button cap, because it doesn't cover the shaft of the button all the way, if you hit it a little off center, it hits the side of the hole. That's just a little fit and finish that they can certainly work on the next iteration of this. I'm going to go ahead and put all the panel nuts on now. And we'll put the boards back together. And the power connector, because it's not keyed, it's your responsibility to always remember to put the red stripe next to the line that says red. And then the user manual tells you how to calibrate it. So we'll do that next step next. But this is the full build. There's the front. There's the side. Here's the back. And I didn't finish soldering that pin header, which would have been a problem, wouldn't it have? But that's why I go through my little process of looking at everything when I think I'm done. The other side, the top, and the bottom. So we'll get this thing calibrated next. Okay, we're going to calibrate this fella now. The user's guide has two ways of calibrating. The quick and dirty, which is basically calibrating it by ear, or using a voltage source like a keyboard, another module, or as they mentioned, this Voltio, which I built the other day, which is perfect for providing precise voltages. And we're going to start, and I already tweaked this a little bit so it may be right on, so we'll just pretend like it's not. And I've got my frequency cheat sheet, because I never try and memorize stuff. I don't need to, got plenty of cheat sheets, and the Voltio has been on about 15 minutes, so it is stabilized. Let me turn up the sound a little bit. This is a square wave, as you can see. And as you can see, we're getting about 329, which is E4. Now I'm going to go up 1 volt on the Voltio. Should be 659, and that's 653. So I'm going to take that up a little bit. Hopefully I'm not getting my head in the way of the camera. I don't think so. So that's 658. Let's go back 1, and we're at 331. So we're 2 cycles off pretty much on both sides. Let's go up 1 more volt. 1.31, and that's 1.31, which is what we should be. Next up should be 26.3, 26.1. I'm pretty comfortable with that. Let's go 1 more up, should be 5200 or so. 5221, 52.7. I'm going to take that up a little bit. Are we not hearing anything? Oh, it's very, very, very sharp, or very piercing. Take that up a little bit more. Little bit more. Little bit more. Okay, let's go down a volt again. 264, that's great. 13, that's great. That's a little high, so I'm going to balance it out a little lower. I think I'm going to go with that. 322, yeah, that looks good. Yep. You can hear my speaker buzzing because I've got it mounted badly. 167, okay. Okay, so voltage-wise, volts per octave range seems great. So I'm now going to go into the sine wave output, and we're going to tweak the sine wave. Let's see. Sine calibration, sine output using a discrete sine shaper should be pretty close. May require, so we don't want any harmonics. Actually, we're almost dead on right now. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. So this is a little peaked, a little pointy at the bottom. Let's hear it a little bit. It's just a peak. And again, you don't have to get this precise. You get it to what you want it to sound like. So I'm going to do a little twisting and turning to see what she looks like. There we go. Now I'm rounding that bottom part out, as you can see. I'm going to change voltage. And if you'll notice, the peak to peaks are right where I want them. It's still a little pointy at the bottom. Spread it out a little bit more. Oh, that sounds nice. And our peak to peak is 10 volts, and it's right where I want it to be. Let's go up again. So that looks great. Let's try it. Let's see what saw wave looks like. Saw wave looks good. Triangle wave looks good also. Okay, so that's calibrated and wasn't too painful. Again, I really recommend you get a Voltio if you do a lot of these, or if you want to have precise calibration of your tuning on the go. Getting a Voltio and having it around, it doesn't take much voltage. Much current to run it, so your power budget's pretty good. I'll post a link to the video of building this so you can see it, but I think you'll find it a useful tool, particularly if you do a lot of building. Absolutely you need to get this. But even if you don't do a lot of building but you do a lot of performing, I think you should have this. I think it'll make your tuning and setup on site a lot easier. So now it's time to put it in the rack and hear how it sounds in the ensemble. Okay, we're in the rack. The user's manual, by the way, has detailed calibration instructions, but in terms of everything else, it just gives you what the front panel things are for. So it's not, there's not a lot to be read into this. Now, one thing that is clearly very interesting right off the bat is, look at the amperage. The amperage is really low. 15 milliamps, 12 milliamps, a peak of 29 milliamps. That's really nice. Let's turn this up a little bit. Speed the sequence up a little bit. We'll use this switch to change the octave. That's normal. Now we'll take it down an octave. So that certainly makes sense. And we can change the bass frequency manually also. Put it back roughly where it was. Let's hear what some of the other, what the saw wave sounds like. Triangle wave. Here's a square wave. Let's go back to the triangle wave and do some modification. So let's go into pulse width modulation. Try and figure out where I am here. Doesn't do much for that. Let's put that in the square. I've got it going very fast there. Slowing it down. Remember, this is a triangle wave coming out of my LFO. I'll go to square wave, see what that does for me. Probably not much. Yeah, I didn't think so. Gives it almost a chorusy sound there. Okay, we'll take that back out. and take that into frequency modulation. Try that with the saw wave. Try it with the triangle wave. Again, that's just a straight LFO going in there. So that sounds nice. Now, when we hit the LFO button, it's now in LFO mode, which is not going to give us... That's an audio range if I turn frequency way up, but if it's strictly in LFO mode, interestingly, we obviously have no way of knowing the speed of the LFO. Yeah, I'm not sure I care about LFO mode on this. Let me take frequency modulation out again. Next thing I'm going to do is I brought this filter in. This is the OTA VCF from AI Synthesis that I like, and I want to get another cable. Turn it to low. Oh, that's not telling us all that much, so it's talking about the filter more than it is the voice. Let's see how fast we can drive this to see whether we start getting dropouts or anything. I'm trying to figure out where my wires are going. There's a blue wire. It's at LFO3. Well, it maintains distinctness. I'm going to change some of the pattern values here. I'm going to do one other thing. I may run the camera up ahead because I want to set up a bunch of stuff. So hold on. Camera skip coming. Okay, now we're back live, hopefully. And I've got it plugged in to the mixer, and I've got the sine wave, the square wave, and the saw wave all coming out. So let's turn up the sine. Now we'll mix in the square. Wow, look at that. It's canceling itself a little bit there. Now we'll mix in the saw wave. So since you've got all four waves coming out at once, you can shape it the way you want, which is pretty interesting. I'm going to go back into the filter just because I want to, because I want to hear what this particular blend sounds like. Where am I coming from here? probably grabbed the wrong filter for this. I should have grabbed my Res EQ, my Surge Res EQ, but I didn't. But as you can see, it's a very serviceable unit, very clean. Again, I'll take everything but the sine out. That sounds great. Add in some square. Take the square out, add in some saw. And so on and so forth. Sounds really good. It's very basic. It's very simple. As you saw, the build was also very simple. So, and it also you'll notice it's only, what, 4 HP wide. It's a very narrow combination, VCO and LFO if you need it, even though I'm less, let's see, I may as well try that. I've got, let me switch things around. More cables shuffling. Okay, now the sound is coming from my Voltio even VCO, and we'll use this as an LFO, and I'll put that into frequency modulation. Turn the frequency up. Let's put that into the sine instead. That'll probably be a better indication. That made it a lot slower. I'm going to switch over to the square here and use PWM. I'm going to go ahead and sync this. Where am I coming from there? Clock there. I'm going to sync it to the trigger. That works better. I slowed the LFO way down. You probably want to use the fine. So you can see how you can use it as an LFO also. And again, a great first unit from Voltio, a very good beginner kit. Doesn't take much space, so if somebody just getting into something and not knowing what kind of rig they're going to buy, what kind of skiff or rack they're going to buy, this would be a good option, and it's a good utility VCO to use further down the road. All in all, and again, it's 65 pounds. It's pretty danged inexpensive for a VCO. A good unit as a first in a series from from Thonk, and I hope you enjoyed the video.